She sent with the additional
I
information.
gave you them also, you can use it once we get started.
Oh, serious?
Yeah.
Blended right into the table.
Take it in.
Wow.
After you hear the now being recorded, then you can.
Yeah. Yesterday at 10:30.
Alright, seeing that it's 5:32, we'll call the URA Budget Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda is a roll call. See that Ruth is not here. Does anyone have the roll?
Got it. Mayor Chaz Jones is excused, I'll note that. Councilor Jessica Andrade. Present. Councilor Dan Crocker.
Here.
Councilor Rick Posey.
Here.
Councilor Matt Lehman.
Here.
Councilor Christopher.
Here.
Was also excused. Brent Caseman.
Here.
Pepe.
Here.
Ian Hunsicker.
Here.
Deanna Montiel. And Jeff Sheminsky is also excused.
All right, thank you. And upon review, there were no meeting minutes from the UR meeting. I think we'll bypass that. And then we go right into review and respond to questions from the first meeting. And I will hand it over to Mike.
Okay, that's, I'm gonna do 4 reports tonight. I'm gonna do one, Chelsea's gonna do one, Dave's gonna do one, and. Have it. Sorry, man.
Over there.
You go first and take care of them.
Yeah.
We have minutes to approve.
Oh,
This is the regular budget committee session. There are minutes.
oh, so we're adjourning the URA, am I following?
We're doing for renewal first.
What?
For a
Oh,
number
we
renewal.
are, okay, I don't have that agenda.
Okay.
Documents for that? We don't have any.
I know that, but we've been noticed as a URA city hall, city meeting, so that's how it's, we can go ahead and do it that way. So anyway, very first question on my report has to do with the URA. We only have,
Budget then, sorry. So this is renewal and budget committee combined? Or it's
so
just
we're
renewal?
gonna do urban renewal right now, finish this question, then we're gonna close and open it.
Perfect, that was my understanding. I just want to make sure everybody was on the same page.
Okay.
All right, continue.
Sure.
Until I interrupt you.
Okay, here we go. First thing that we had one question, or it came up, we were talking about the closure of the URA. So when we put some money aside, so we're gonna move, I'm gonna suggest we move 20,000 from one of the 3 capital projects. And the one I'm really looking at is the street fund, or the street line item, or we can pick or choose, we have 3 line items. Now, we can do that, but whatever we do, it's got a motion that's got to be made by the committee after any discussion. So any questions on that?
Yeah, I do have, in terms of closing it, so it doesn't have to be all the bills paid, if you will, before you close it.
Right.
You can close it and then still pay on.
We're gonna review everything and make sure we're okay, we didn't overspend anything. That's the big idea. And then, yes, we're gonna probably stay open until we pay off the debt.
Oh.
The debt's open until 2033. We cannot make any prepayments until 2027.
Bringing the consultant on, paying the money this year, bring the consultant on, will essentially put a plan in place.
To close.
Making sure that we've spent the maximum that we were set out to spend and
Right.
nothing over that. And then we'll put a repayment plan in place, that again extends out to at least the 27th. But we won't actually close it out until it gets paid off.
All's hands, I can't make a motion.
Okay, so we're entertaining a motion for, could you reiterate that?
To move 20,000 from line item, 2306.165 street project. And we'll move it into 2305.146 consultant.
Can you read that again, Mike?
Sure. We'll move 20,000 from 23-0615, and we'll move it to 2305.146 consultant.
So moved.
Yeah.
So second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Any further questions or discussions for Mike?
And we'll go ahead and close out URA.
Okay, so the URA meeting is adjourned. And we'll bring to order the City Forum Budget Committee meeting, starting with the roll.
Okay. Counselor Jessica Andrade. Present. Counselor Diane Brucker.
Here.
Counselor Ruth Crosby.
Here.
Counselor Matt Lehman.
Here.
Counselor Christopher McMorrin.
Here.
Counselor Teresa Nielsen.
Here.
Brent Caseman.
Here.
Mark Kepi.
Here.
Van Hunsicker.
Here.
And Steve absent. Mayor Chaz Jones. David Lowe. Jeff Schminsky. And Deanna Montiel is absent.
All right, thanks, Chelsea. And now we'll approve the meeting minutes from the City of Walnut Budget Committee for May the 1st. It was in our packet. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. I will second.
Viewers say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. And now, just like we did for URA, a chance to review and respond to questions from the first meeting. Still starting with you, Mike?
Yeah. The package that was sent out to you gave you a list of kind of generic questions that we gathered from the last meeting. There's approximately 33 of them. We gave those up to each director, and we shall have full report. And we may generate a little bit more questions for the next one around. Now, I did go through, and here it needs a motion, I put it in bold so you can see it. Didn't do it for the URA. And so we'll go through those this evening. Like I say, for report. Now, once we get past this meeting today, I've already started updating the budget. And my plan is to give everybody a link to that instead of all the paper. And you can go through it one more time before the next meeting. So hopefully I'll have that ready by Friday. And we're gonna still get something out to you, I believe, in the next probably 2 days. But, like I said, I'm gonna have that link you guys can look at electronically. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and jump over to page 3 of the report. First question I had was what are the balances of the 2016 debt renewal? We got the sewer fund at 3.9 million and the urban renewal 2.2. And like I said already earlier, the prepayments until 2027, and this is out through 2023. Question number 4. Question number 4 is pretty lengthy. Basically, I gave you an update on our water and sewer revenue projections. I gave the volumes that we projected out, and then the fixed charges. Volume charges went up 8.695%, and fixed charges went up 2.5%. And each month as I go, I get better and better with data. My data gets better. And so now I've got about another 76,000 in water, and I've got another 200-something thousand in sewer. I did take into effect that Inter4 was going to be going off the grid. So, I mean, if I didn't bold this one because I like to keep my numbers conservative, but if the budget committee would like to increase any of the budget's revenue, it's there. I mean, but like I said, I'm always conservative with my numbers. So, any questions on this one? Go ahead, Drew.
Mike, I'm sorry, this seems like a dumb question. But each of these figures reflects how much our revenue is decreased.
Currently, this is numbers that are not in the budget. Okay, on page 52, for water, we've got 1.69, so there's like another $76,000 there that we could increase it. And then on page 59, on the sewer, we've got it's almost the same number, 1.69. So we've got extra money there if we wanted to. Now, it's like I said, my numbers are conservative in the budget. If the budget committee would like to increase the numbers, so we could put it towards a project or something like that. Sewer's the only one that really has some room.
So you're saying that there is revenue coming in from Inter four?
No, I took Enter 4 out of the picture.
Okay.
And
You
they're
took
still
it out entirely.
entirely projected out. Yeah, I projected out what they've been trending for the last 5 years. And so we just took a 5-year average, and that's the numbers that you see in front of you.
Okay.
Go ahead, man.
Well, I guess it would be a question for Kevin in reference to those two. I mean, at this point, with the budget, you got what you need.
Well, we can always use more, but it's.
But let's leave the water alone. That one's recovering. Okay, let's leave that one. Let's just let it stir. We'll have to move it. If you need something.
Oh,
But try and keep it, let's still be conservative.
oh, no, I understand
Yeah.
that. But
We could cut the Starlight pump station.
We can cut it.
Cut Starlight pump station.
Eye darts, that's right.
I'm sorry I asked the question.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a problem, somebody else could fall off the grid too. I mean, there's always that possibility.
Man.
These are projections too. Only as good as the data that I have. If it changes tomorrow, I can't guarantee it's going to be the same number. It does change. I mean, I'm not going to entertain a motion just because this one's I'm conservative on it. So do we want to just move on?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Number 5, what is the difference between workers' comp and workers' comp work days? What it is the workers' comp is the money that we pay to SAFE. And we have the main insurance for our workers' comp. Then we have to pay the state a daily charge of workers' comp so they can do whatever they do with their workers' comp. Enough said on that one. I'm moving on. What are the billing rates for the city's new attorneys? These are the rates for Barry, Elster, and Hammond. They're doing basically the administrative part, and so there's the billing rates there. Are there any questions on it?
No questions.
Okay. Now we're talking, for the purchase budget, we increase this miscellaneous from 2,000 to 4,500. Currently, they've spent 2,895. Projects out to 3,500 for the end of the year. And when I do something like that, I look back and look in the past into the actuals. And prior years, they've spent almost $4,600, so I moved it up to 45. It's a technique that we all do, just trying to keep it there, keep it level. Any questions on it? Go ahead, Jessica.
I think the question more had to do with what was the cause for the increase? Is it just inflation? Like, are there more kinds of the regular purchases?
It's becoming regular purchases in there, so we probably need to look at it and probably split it out like I did with the sale of equipment. There may be, Chelsea, I think you spent a lot of your entertainment, I should say entertainment, but when we have meetings around here, we pay for food and stuff like that. So we probably need to come up with a food budget for community food or something like that, move it out. So that way miscellaneous falls back down to maybe $1,000. I mean, that's something we can look at next year. It's like we did with this non-departmental, we looked to see where it belonged and put it where it belonged. So, I mean, right now, we're just looking at it that way, but we can look at it, splitting it out again. I mean, cause I don't like having miscellaneous go crazy like that. You know, it was going really crazy because we were putting our sale of vehicles in there. It's like $19,000 miscellaneous. That's too high. So anyway, that's, you know, we'll look at the miscellaneouses next year and just kind of start weeding out stuff that they can go into.
That's good.
Any other questions on number 7? Seeing none.
Now, I'm jumping around with numbers because I have a certain set, Kevin has a certain set, so and Chelsea. Chris is probably in on that too. I don't know if he, we'll see. Number 11, is there a difference in the use of uniform allowance throughout the budgets? Basically, it's what we have. It's our uniform allowances for purchases. We give them money to go out and do their uniform reimbursements and stuff like that, boots and cleaning and so on. The uniforms that's in the personal services. The other one that's the uniforms and materials and services, and when we give them safety clothing, police uniforms, and so on. So that's the difference between those two. Any questions?
I just, and that was me. I was just trying to say that the wording should probably be consistent of like, because if you have uniform for purchasing in one spot versus uniform cleaning in another, like, and they're the same terminology.
Yeah, I know. Uniform allowance falls into the personal services realm, so that's why we call it an allowance. It's an allowance per the union contract. You know, the other one is uniform. It's not really an allowance. So I see what you're saying. I follow you. But, you know, that's how we keep them separate in our mind.
Okay.
Now, number 13. Moving on to number 13, unless there's any other questions there.
Seeing none.
This one's twofold. I have part of it's under Chelsea's. There's a budget line item in the budget, the building and grounds. I inadvertently put $28,802 for the building grounds worker and the custodian. There's only one line item. It's going to be the building worker. So we need to correct the budget by removing that $28,000. Here's your motion. We're going to move $28,000 from custodian in the building budget and move it down into either the ending fund balance or contingency, whatever the budget committee would like to do. I prefer it in the ending fund balance because we can use it next year and we got it. There's your motion.
Then you want to make that motion.
Can we make that motion up a little bit?
I can try. All right, we need to correct the building and grounds personnel budget. Custodian amount of $28,802 does not belong there and needs to be zeroed out, and the $28,802 needs to be moved down into ending fund balance for the general fund.
We'll entertain a motion for what you said.
So
I said, we'll
moved.
entertain a discussion.
So moved.
I'll
Oh,
second.
motion. Any discussion? All in agreement, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't look at my room.
No, I just wanna make sure I'm understanding it, so. Cause on page 33, there is a building grounds worker and there's not a custodian listed.
Let's look at that.
I just wanna make sure I know what we're moving where.
Listed twice, so don't take them.
So what, are you on 32? 31,
I'm on 31.
okay.
That custodian line item should be zero.
Gotcha.
And that's what the motion that I gave.
Okay. So
Ending fund balance.
so we're getting rid of,
We're gonna zero out custodian because it doesn't belong there.
so the page 33 is still correct.
33, there's gonna be changes. Yes, that's.
So where there is the building and grounds maintenance worker and there's not, that's correct, that's what we're.
We will look at that, right. Yeah, that's right, that I fixed the narrative. The
Okay.
narrative correct.
Okay, cool, I just wanna make sure I was tracking all that.
Nope, you're right, Chris, I see where you're coming from, the
Okay.
narrative's correct.
Okay, okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. It passes unanimously. Back to you, Mike.
Okay, number 14 and 15, the health insurance for the building ground and parks department, general fund seems high, please review. I did go through and review that, everything is going where it belongs, and basically we built a budget for a worker that's kind of, we're projecting him to have a family budget. We have no idea what the person may be, so we have to aim high to have to be conservative, I hate to say that, but by being high. And so when you split that 65-35, you got 17,000 in buildings and grounds and 9,000 in the parks. So that's pretty much the increases for that, plus or minus other personnel items that are going to increase following that person.
Any questions or discussions on 14 and 15? Seeing none, back to you, Mike.
Okay, number 16. Go ahead, Diane.
No, nothing, no.
Oh.
I thought we had to vote.
Sorry, go ahead.
There you go, ready to move. Moving on.
Put a motion out the vote if you want.
Keep moving, sorry.
Number 16, within the city's council budget, miscellaneous community events is labeled incorrectly. I had fixed that, but I had not fixed it on the sheet, so it's been corrected. Number 17, I jumped up and I said, let's make the ARPA expense zero because we're gonna spend it all. Well, we're not gonna spend it all by the end of the year. There's gonna be about 15,000 left. And so we're gonna have to use them as is. I just jumped the gun thinking it was gonna be zero based on some numbers, but further analysis, no, it's not gonna happen.
Question?
Go ahead.
The ARPA funds, if they're not spent by the end of the year, I believe since they're all allocated, they do not have to be returned, is that correct?
That is correct. We're, believe it or not, we're a sub-recipient, so we don't have to deal with that. We just have to fix our contract to say that we're gonna extend it out to another certain day, certain time frame. So we're okay. Yeah, we don't have to return it. Any other questions?
Questions? Seeing none.
Okay, number 18, I was asked by one of the members that council's education training line item budget be updated to everybody, so you can turn out from the system or page 8 and 9 of the package. Any questions on the paperwork that will be?
So seeing the actuals and knowing that we spent about what was in there, then the proposed budget has cut down to 6,000. If we wanted to increase that back to 10,000, where would we recommend we?
Well, we just put, what, 28,000 into fund balance. You make some of it,
Okay, then
you make the motion.
then I will make that motion in the best language you can provide.
Okay, you would like to increase line item 295245 from 6,000 to 10,000, making a $4,000 increase from ending fund balance.
Thank you.
Councilor Johnny Moody,
So you moved?
Yes.
Okay.
and you have what you need, Kelsey? Okay. Is there a second? Any questions or discussion?
What's the thought we needed the more funds there, Councilor Andrade?
Well, the council has in the strategic plan to have more hearings. And that coupled with, the number of, invited speakers and stuff like that, and wanting to compensate them, I figured that would probably amount, especially considering that is what we spent for this last fiscal year.
Yeah, so one of the large expenses there was Western Oregon University and having that one-time training. That was why it was increased to the $10,000.
Yeah.
And I've not heard from the council that we're gonna have that type of like training again, which was the more expensive portion of that budget. So I reduced that amount just thinking we're not gonna do that city council and inclusivity committee training with Western Oregon again, but we're still gonna need some funding for the ongoing monthly or bi-monthly events that are taking place. So I did reduce it down some rather than keeping the full 10,000 in there. I didn't think we would need the full 10.
Well, again, the master plan says annual training in there. Or at least that was the last version I had seen it written on that.
So, Dominique, you have input?
I have two thoughts on it. I think that some of the community-wide events that we were much more effective and brought on a greater attendance than do the trainings. I also think that since the council has 4-year terms, I question the need for annual trainings. And in our last meeting, Mike indicated that we should target a 42% reserve, I believe. And the reserve that we have, is about 14%. So I don't think this is the year to be increasing budgets unless there's a clear and important need. So regardless, I will be voting.
Dan?
Yeah, is that on this, to the US Bank, that 3380, is that what was Western Oregon? You said something about 3,000. Cause there wasn't one, made out two.
I didn't remember getting a training from US Bank.
No, that was probably, you probably purchased something with a purchase card.
Well, right,
Yeah.
but I mean, it doesn't, you don't have on here, you know, a bill to pay to Western Oregon. I mean, I know this thing was done, but that's the only thing that I see in the realm.
And you know, I looked at that when I put this together, what I could remember it, guess what? I can't remember it. Sorry. I don't remember what we purchased with that.
So you don't think it was paying Western Oregon?
It could have been, it very well could have been. It wasn't, you would see the check at the
Yeah.
Western Oregon.
Well, that's why,
Dan, you may be correct.
It was February was the training. Was it
Yeah.
not?
yep, that's when it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 2/8, that was the date of it.
Councilor Johnny?
I would like to push back on the notion that this wouldn't be important, and also that, the, idea that we're increasing the budget, because we're not. This would just be maintaining what that budget was for that line item. And I think it's very important, especially, because we're going to have another election in the fall, and we might be having new council members, and getting everyone on the same page once again, would be important sooner than later.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Yeah, your comment about the reference to the strategic plan and ongoing training, my interpretation of that and discussions with the council on that has been that continuing education wasn't targeted towards city council training, but it was targeted towards community education, which is the monthly events or bi-monthly events that are happening. I don't believe that the strategic plan calls for annual training of the city council on the event like what we did with Western Oregon University, which is, again, I'm just giving you the reason why I took that 3,000 out was
I
because
appreciate that.
that was a Western Oregon University thing, and I didn't foresee doing that every year. And I don't that in a strategic plan, that was the intent, was to have that type of training annually with the council.
Oh,
You're good. I'm gonna vote yes, just because I think it's fine to keep it as is, and then if we don't spend it, we just roll it over into next year. It's no harm, no foul. And that feels easier than needing it and then we come back and we're not increasing it, we're just kind of keeping it the same, and then if we don't spend it, great.
Any additional, Ben?
Well, I was looking at the League of Oregon Cities, and just what was spent this past year was around $2,000. And she's right that typically, if you have new counselors, particularly those new counselors go to the League of Oregon Cities. And I assume this actually doesn't amount to, this $2,000 probably wasn't all the council going, I mean, this past year, but they could have, I don't know what their fees are. But I mean, I could see that number being higher, just because of the election.
Discussion? And, Dr. Nielsen?
I do kind of think that possibly, I understand leaving money in there just in case, but I think in this current economic and other issues we're considering, I'm more conservative for maybe doing a training, a costly training like this, maybe every other year rather than, because I just think that that is not a place for that quantity of money in the financial positions that we are in this currently we spend on a yearly basis. I think we can do better and be a little more frugal, more conscientious with our spending.
And then Chelsea, since we know we'll have at least one nay, will it be helpful if we pause between votes? I'm still learning the rules in terms of gift document each person.
I do, but, let's see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
I have my close-up glasses, and so it's a little bit like this too, so that's part of what I'm doing.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
What was that?
4 nays and 5 yeas.
Is it a simple majority? Yeah. So it passes for the record. Motion passes.
You have who did what?
Yes, I had, Causey, Crocker, Nielsen, and Caseman were nays, and everyone else was.
Number 18, back to you, Mike, for 19 and 20.
19 and 20 needs a brought up by well, you notice that our actual versus the actual, the budget of what the company is low. And so when I went back and looked at the stuff, I saw that we hadn't done some journal entries. And so what I gave you there showing you the journal entry that we need to increase those costs and go ahead and reduce our prepaid. We prepay our workers' comp. And each month I go in and I allocate so much per month based on the payroll process that we do. We weren't doing that. We are doing it now. So it's going to increase the total budget by 34,000. Then what I gave you is a breakdown how it's going to decrease the ending fund balances. So general fund's the ending fund's going to go down by 21,000. I should probably put the motion together that needs to happen. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to decrease the beginning fund balance for the general fund by 21,128, the street fund by 8,299, the water budget by 3,447, sewer fund by 1,483, and the opposite, we're going to decrease the ending fund balance for the general fund by 21,128, street by 8,299, water by 3,447, and the street fund by 1,483. That's the motion. We have to do that.
Right.
It's going to affect, we have the actual that's going to hit the budget.
So we'll entertain a motion.
How you doing, Chelsea?
You,
I'm done. So I,
that's something we. It's the-
putting a motion in here would be really helpful.
Yeah.
My recommendation, having a recommended motion built into the notes, not a critique, just as we call it.
No, I agree.
We all- So with Mike's verbiage there, I'll entertain a motion. So Dr. moves, do we have a second?
Second.
Councilor Fleming seconds. Any discussion? Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I apologize because there wasn't any reason I wasn't here. Just didn't remember to come. My question, and I'm sure you explained it and I just didn't get it. But in terms of, say, like the budget you have this year, and like you say, somebody said, well, these look low. Are these in line with what it was last year?
This will bring.
So it doesn't really change anything. It was just a mistake that was made.
We're correcting a mistake.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Back to you, Mike, for 23.
23 and 24. Basically, we had two parks grants in there, and when I saw that, started digging into the LBE Fund 41. And when I did, I have recreated Fund 41, and it follows the CIP that everybody was given. So now, when you look, what I did is I went through each one of them. I sent this out to y'all yesterday. I'm gonna go through the budget where the mistakes were and change those. On the page, I don't know what it was in the book, but the first, I sent you a printout, your bunch of budgets yesterday. The LBE fund, SDC governmental, FDC proprietary, and sewer. Those are the ones that are affected by the changes. And I'll go through each one of them real quick, or not really quick. I'll tell you what happened. 58, the parks grant, we had two grants in there, so the only one that really was right was the 50,000, and that was the one that's down under the grants. So that one's been corrected. We removed the 58,000. I'll give you the motions later. It's going to be kind of, it might be simpler. We can make it crazy, but I prefer simple. The next item, I was putting the budget together, figuring I forgot to, when I did the Business Oregon grant, that's the water treatment plant. We're getting $12 million. I only had 10 million in there then we're gonna spend 11 million. So I was wondering where all my refund, my budgets went. I fixed that when we ended back into where I've got all my reserves for all the computers, the vehicle and all that. So that's why the one line item 413840 went from 8,293,000 to 10,435,000. So that's the 12 million that we're gonna get in theory. We're gonna spend it next year. We're gonna spend some of it this year. We spent some last year. So we're only gonna get 12 mil. So that's what that totals up to. That is pretty much that. In the revenues, I had the ARPA money in there twice, so I removed debt. That's the 718,000. That's the 718,000. So that changes the beginning fund balances. It goes from 5.398 to 4.03. So that's our total budget. It didn't decrease. It went pretty much flat. The revenues are 20,739,000. That's what we're going to start the year with. Over on the projects, the big deal in there, I had the street infrastructure. I had $200,000 more in there, so that 740 matches the CIP. And then the utility rate study, I forgot to put money into that, so we have to put that in. That's something we need to do here. And the net effect of that is going to increase our contingency from $2,000 to $873,000. So that's the LBE. Over on, any questions on the LBE fund before I jump to the others?
Seeing none.
Okay, the STC governmental, I had, on the school improvement projects, we had a project, 1.4, and I had 1.2 in there for, 16th Street, and I believe it's 13th Street lighting. That's the budgets that we have in the CIP, for that the CIP. So that changes that, it increases it from 1.2 to 1.4. The difference is gonna be, the change is gonna be down in contingency. I reduced it from 500,000 to 300,000. Any questions on the SDCs?
Seeing none.
Proprietary, I noticed that I had not got the right money over for the, transfer to the sewer for the sewer debt payment. So it's gonna increase that by $10,000. It's gonna go from 255,000 to 265. The offset will be in contingency. It will go from 500 to 490,000. It's a $10,000 increase decrease. That's STC proprietary. Any other questions? And of course,
I see no questions.
and the only reason the sewer fund changed is because the money's coming from the sewer fund for the debt payment, so that's where the change is there. Any questions on all that? Now the motion, I don't know if you want to go into the fine detail. I can sit down with Chelsea and go say, the motion that we're gonna say is accept the corrections that I've already given you based on the information that I gave you on Tuesday, yesterday, on those budgets. I can sit down with Chelsea and put the motion together, but I think the motion can say, accept the corrections that have been given to the budget committee. That's up to
As long as she has them in, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking as long as Chelsea had that in the minutes.
It was in an email department.
Oh,
Was
We
that
got it printed because you sent it.
Right.
That's what I'm just saying.
So we'll just reference that document.
yeah,
That reference the.
that reference, the document that I gave you,
that would
or
work.
accept the changes as is, and I will go through.
Move to accept the changes as is. In the document sent to us, yes.
Do we have a second? Second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Okay. Number 26, in the Community Development Fund, what are the balances of the 1993 and 1997 block grant receivables? Oh, we actually have, there's two or three, I have different balances, but they're broken down in 1992 balance. Block grants is 37,819, and one for 1993 block grant, 88,167. And then another 1992 block grant sequence of, and it's 1.51, 151,866 for a balance of 277,352. And those are paid, the money is at houses are sold, or the liens are taken care of there. Any questions there?
Seeing none.
Number 28, we had some narratives in the government STC. The narratives have been updated, so I gave you a copy of it. I don't see it tonight, but it'll be on the link that I send you in the next couple of days. And the final one that I have, number 33, in the city council budget, and we show a transfer of $244,057 to the LBE fund. It'd be nice to show this transfer from the various general government funds, or all the fund departments, so it reflects their departmental expenses correctly or accurately. So I'm limited by budget law. There's one interfund transfer line item per fund, beginning fund balance one, so on. I'm pretty much limited. And the way I keep track of this is, if you look, believe it or not, I'm paid on the LBE fund and the transfers, the 1.456 Transfers, that total is the transfers reserved in various departments. If you wanna look at the general fund numbers are 41,03941 through 41,03964. And that's the 244,000. That's how we do it. But by budget law, I can only have one of those line items per budget. Otherwise, the accounting just gets pure on it. Any questions on that?
No questions.
I'm done. I'm gonna, Chelsea, would you like to go first and I'll take notes on yours?
Okay, so, page 10, you'll see a memorandum that I submitted with some questions and then out of order. But I think you can follow along. So question 27 was about in the current fiscal year, how many houses that we built, roof, this and post. So you'll see the answer there, 7 single family have been started since January. And you? Does anyone have any further questions about that?
Weren't we hoping for like 34 or something like that?
Right,
How-
and I think part of
Something
was
like
the delay with the Mill Pond, development, and that was what we had put numbers in for, and that's why it's been decreased. Okay, question 30, this is the other side of the building grounds personnel question, related to how it was split and the position. And so volunteer, and I think I explained this a little bit last time, but volunteer park caretaker live-in position has been eliminated or will be this summer. The residence that's there will be decommissioned. And then the explanation of the caretaker person was also the part-time custodian, so those has already left that position. I explained that we've been contracting out. And so we have split that position 65% building and grounds and 35% parks based on duties, and we'll adjust that after when the job and we can see what we're spending their time doing. And does anyone have further questions about that? In the parks budget, the administrative assistance percentage went from 1% to 25%. Last fiscal year, Public Works took over park reservations from the finance department and has a new online program. So this is a more accurate recording of how much time the person who's doing that job is spending with park-related tasks. So and that varies from reservations just to also other park uses.
Is that an overall savings once we went to the online reservations, 25% of one person's job? Is that a savings of time or how it was done before?
Yeah, I think overall the time spent has decreased versus how much the finance staff person was spending. It's just a lot. There's been a lot of transition for the program because a lot of people are not used to using it. So that's expected for the first couple of years that there'll still be more help than you might do after more people get used to it. But it is taking less staff time. However, we are also trying to create the program, build the program, make the changes to the program. So the first few years, I think, are going to be a little more work for that person than maybe we'll get after we've had it for several years.
And all that too, that I think that at least specifically the last couple of years, the allocation for the amount of time the finance position was spending there was probably not accurate reflection of what was actually being spent there. It just grew, right? As the reservations became more and more popular, it became almost, some weeks it was 50% of that job, if not more. Which is why, again, we looked for a better solution than having our payroll employee doing 50% of their time doing park reservations. So it's that it wasn't necessarily properly allocated last couple of years, which is why we fixed it.
Yeah, and the program really makes it easier, because Jan was spending quite a bit of time. I don't know how much Shannon spends, but it's all computer now. right?
It is.
They can do it all online. Yeah,
It'll work.
yeah.
Still have older community members that might struggle and have to come in.
Yeah,
of course. Understand that.
Well, I'll have to say that I did it and Mike can do it. So, most people should be.
You get occasional one or two walk in.
Yeah.
Not bad.
It's almost like, you know, our online for our utility billing, listen to the track, how many people come in. There's not very many people come in, they've got used to doing everything electronic, so it's a good thing. And we can do other things now.
Additional questions for Chelsea? Anything else from you, Chelsea?
Nope, that's
Thank you
it.
so much.
Okay, now
Glad
put
we
the, put the.
floor belongs to the chief.
All right, on to the police budget. All right, so question number 3, it sounds like you guys would like a history on forfeiture monies and how and why we're here. Back in 2014, entered into an equitable sharing agreement with the United States Department of Justice and allows the city of Philomath to the ability to forfeit illegal proceeds from narcotics investigations, other financial criminal activity. They go into a special fund, from a forfeiture fund. We've been sitting on that money for about 10 years now, and we're looking for the authority to spend it this budget year. There's also some pretty strict guidelines from the federal government how those monies can be spent. We have 2 purchases. One is not body worn camera, but in-car replacement duty weapons. We intend like most of those funds were from drug trafficking investigations and other criminal investigations that were last. It's been sitting there, yeah, for about 10 years. So now that we've got enough and we've got projects that we'd like to spend that money on. Any questions on that?
None.
All right, on to number 8. Would it be more beneficial to hire a contract police officer versus hiring a full-time permanent city employee? So I reached out to the sheriff's office to try and figure out what the cost of a contract sheriff's deputy would be. $5,600. Solo entry full-time police officer would have an annual cost of $84,644. So significantly less expensive to hire a full-time police officer in the city. Questions on number 8?
I just thought it was interesting, I learned yesterday at the police committee meeting that we actually do have a lower pay scale, and because we have to contract with higher pay scale, that's why there's that difference, isn't that correct?
Mhm,
So
yes.
it's a huge.
Well, if we had hired a contractor, we now also have to pay for their vehicle and the maintenance that they use and all that other.
Yeah, so that's figured into that cost as well.
Right, it'd be useful.
So, did you have a question or?
It was gonna be like, would we have to pay for like their uniforms, et cetera, so.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on number 8?
Other questions?
And number 9, please explain the increase of overtime since 2021/2022. Increase overtime is due to lack of staffing over the 23-24 fiscal year. During this time, the police department has operated with as few as 4 solo officers. So we're forced to pay overtime, backfill for vacations, sick leave, training, and court appearances.
Any questions? So we can get to the most important question, number 10.
Number 10. Police utility, and I don't know if this is one that Ken snuck in there on us or. The question was, why do we have dog waste listed for under police utilities when he is retired? So we do have a dumpster and we rent that from Republic Services, and it basically it's just used to generate or to dispose of. Not exactly sure how it got labeled with dog waste.
Is that been corrected?
We're all speechless.
Yeah.
We're all speechless.
12, clarify the use of small tools and equipment. Again, I'm not sure where that label came from. It's not only used for office furniture, but radar units, specialty tools, and crime scene equipment.
It's basically,
Kind of into what you were saying earlier about maybe potentially splitting things. I mean, office furniture versus, the things that you use to do your job. I mean, not that you don't use the office, but the leasing side of it. I guess in my head, it at least might make sense to have two different lines.
well, office furnitures, believe it or not, down at LBE fund. If we purchase any furniture, I'm gonna put it over there. So maybe. we get
Well,
furniture
or
for-
something, yeah.
Yeah, we scratch off a Dave's there saying office furniture, cause I haven't looked at it, but it's probably radar units, specialty too.
And not the office.
Not an office, so.
Okay.
I don't know, you'd be surprised, sometimes they get slipped in there, so. We can look at it.
Okay.
Not a big deal.
No, not at all.
Questions on that? No, back to you, Chief.
All right, number 25, please explain the asset forfeiture gun purchase and how you retire guns. So we purchased new duty weapons from a law enforcement vendor called Proforce. Also offer a trade-in option where they'll buy back our older retired weapon, so we get a credit. Reduces the overall cost of the replacement and the purchase of the new duty weapons.
How long does a weapon last?
It just depends. There's a number of reasons why we're replacing these, not necessarily because they're
Right.
for that, and changing calibers.
You'd like to get rid of them before they wear out.
Yeah.
Before
Oh,
they change.
darn it.
What was the changing calibers thing? It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't remember what it was.
So we're changing from a 40 caliber to a smaller caliber, which is 9mm. It seems like there's some malfunctions that occur with officers that don't have as good of a grip on the weapon, or smaller hands, and so the 9mm seems to function a little bit more smooth and with less jams and malfunctions.
Any other questions?
All right, number 29, what are the following accounts used for? Computer modem line charges, that one's for internet service for the office and the mobile data terminals, which that's the computers that are located inside the vehicles. The other one was fiber optic cable, secure connection between the Lake County Sheriff's Office and then our records management systems. And then LED's and NCIC, it's a state and local and federal database that houses our criminal records and driving records. And then last but not least, our telephone, it's just an office landline phone system.
You can say you're well connected.
We are well connected.
Any final questions for the chief? Seeing none, thank you. And I believe, Kevin, am I correct? Yes, sir. Word all yours.
Promise you remembered.
Oh, yeah. One of your biggest fears.
It is. That was
That was the dad joke.
Was it?
That joke?
Oh, of course, I did.
Want me to give you a dad joke?
Yeah,
I do.
Speaking as the chair, I can grant this power. Yeah, please. Thanks.
I have to check my database first.
Excellent.
That's a good one.
Matt's
I'll
upset.
share that with
No.
And let this be a lesson that it's always better for me to be on, than have me live here when you can't.
I'll try to mitigate that. So, anyway, we'll move on. Thanks.
Okay, the increase, to 62,000, from 55 for, repair parts. Repair parts are still sometimes months away. We're still waiting for several items we purchased this last budget year that aren't expected until late into the next year, and we do keep our stock in for emergency repairs and any shortfalls of anything else there. So we've also, out of that budget, we've been trying to install more fire hydrants. We have some places that are lacking that we've worked with the fire department over the years on filling those in. We just have been pulled in too many directions to actually get to that lately, so, we'll try to keep that line item full, so when we do get time, we can go out and knock a few of them out. And also to replace some of the water meters that have been in the ground for probably longer than I've been alive. What did I do?
There's this fine line between a budget committee and a roast.
Yeah.
I was actually just gonna turn it over to Mike to have him put it in his own words. I'll take care of it. I'm deciding against that.
Any questions for Kevin on number 21 there? Seeing none, back to you.
Number 22, sewer, the cost increased 62, decreasing to 57. I try to be pretty thorough in what I respond with. Basically, we have that much money in there, costs have gone way up for sewer line repairs when we have an emergency break. So I try to set on that as far into the budget year as we can. And when we get towards the end here, what we have left, we use to contract with all replacements or repairs and refurbishing. So that money will be going away in June, or in
They're here next week.
Oh, next week. So if you want to meet back up in a couple weeks, we will probably have that depleted a little bit better. Oh, by the way, Mike, we're gonna be spending a bunch of money out of that line.
I guess if I could,
Yeah.
I would just comment. Well, it's on your behalf.
Oh, okay. Help me once.
So like, I know. Like on these repairs, like on reference to the water and the sewer, those things, we gotta have product, now. If you don't have enough money to do it, there's a process to go through to get more money. And they don't go spending the money just for the fun of it. But it's a real critical line item to have extra money.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Any questions on?
Seeing none?
One question left. I had to buy Gary dinner to come here tonight, so start having some questions come in, make it worth hanging around. The parks, materials and services budget shows ground maintenance of 20,000. We are planning on replacing the fall material at Westbrook Park this year. What do we have in there now, gravel? Or
Westbrook?
pea gravel, yeah.
It is,
Is it
it is
engineer?
gravel.
Pea gravel. So that's on our list to get that upgraded. The landscape budget at 20,000 was added. We're trying to break things out more with buildings and grounds and, through all the departments, because we had a landscape maintenance and a grounds maintenance, but not in both of them. Landscape, whenever we'd go out and repair a parking lot or restripe it or mark it, it was going under landscape. That's not, it was tougher to track what we were actually spending and where, so it wasn't, I don't think it increased any of the budget lines because we took some of the money from grounds maintenance and created the landscape maintenance in some departments and vice versa in the other ones. So it was just basically a way of tracking what we're actually doing better.
It's probably off the topic, but I want to say how wonderful the changes are to City Park, the sign, the gravel around the tracks and everything is well done. And
Thank you.
very impressive.
Chris had us cut the Starlight generator out of there to pay for that. Make that work.
You're getting that on my balance.
Yeah, yeah.
Get a closer look as well.
When will that be put in, by the way?
We are expecting to get the generator in August or September
Which year?
this year.
Is the weather such that that's ideal to put it in at that time? Or is it too hard?
They can put it in the dead of winter.
Okay, good to know, thank you.
Run it out of your garage. So we're getting ready to, since the weather's changed, we're looking to get the path for it and get it all ready so it'll be dry and everything. We just had to wait for Pioneer Connect to move some fiber optic cables where we're putting it.
Good, thank you.
The ball service that you're putting in Westbrook Park, will that be the same as was used in Auckland Park?
I wish.
It'll be the engineered fall
It'll be the
material.
chips.
The wood chips. Unless you wanna.
Unless you wanna increase the budget.
A significant change.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Ballpark.
85,000 for that stuff.
Yeah, it was close.
So $80,000 more than.
Chips
What,
are
just for that, the covering?
Yeah, and the pad cheese.
It'll last.
The chips are about $2,000.
Yeah.
Wood fiber is ADA compliant as well.
Just a lot cheaper.
Any final questions for Ben? Don't see any. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
That's the end of the package. So I believe we move into budget committee discussions and deliberations. Floor is open. Discuss any of them.
Because I had to leave early at the last meeting, but I just wanted to check in on those two things that we had adopted for the canopy stuff, community events, and just make sure we know those might come out of the budget. I know there's community events is in here. It was decreased from last year because we did it last year, but we also didn't have the policy in place last year. So I'm okay with it being decreased. We don't think we'll use that, but I guess just with the understanding that like we did last year think we would want 5,000 in there, so it might be worth just keeping that in mind. And if we have enough interest, maybe worth increasing that. And then for the tree canopy part, I know we had talked about looking for grants and other funding opportunities, but if that doesn't come through, do you know pull that from and where that would go?
We'd probably look to either well, some of that depends on what we decide on for trees and stuff.
Sure.
And all that kind of stuff, so.
There was nothing in here that I was like, oh, clearly we could just pull, like, whatever the amount is, but yeah.
Yeah. We'd either look to the city council fund
Okay.
and see if we can find it there, and either we could go community support line item. I mean, there's a couple different areas we could pull it. Or not community support, but the,
First related activities?
no. Again, community support for it,
Okay.
or we would raise Kevin's budget on grounds and maintenance or somewhere there and see if we can do it for parks.
Yeah.
So I wasn't anticipating that was gonna be a real big dollar amount.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that it happens even if we aren't able to get.
If you wanna add additional money into the city council fund or department, for that specifically, we could do that. I mean, it'd just be a motion if you wanted to make sure that we had some extra funds in there for that.
Okay, would we create a new line item for that, or what would make the most?
Or drop it into, just to increase the community support, just know that's what it's earmarked for.
I guess I'd prefer to keep those separate, just because I think we wanted the community events to be like initiated by the community, and this is very much a city-owned thing. So it's okay then for me to make a new line item that's not gonna screw anyone.
$3,000 left of the money that we put into capital fund balance.
That's true.
I'm keeping a running total on that one.
Can you remind me what the tree canopy project is?
Yeah, so it would be sort of looking at areas of the city that are lacking in tree canopy right now, contacting those homeowners, property owners, letting them know that they're eligible to pick up a tree at Public Works, and then creating some instructions on how to plant that and where to plant it in a way that will be beneficial, with the goal of increasing our overall tree canopy in the city.
Volunteer driven, or is this staff going to manage this?
I mean, staff will manage it, Public Works will be in charge of having the trees there, but the goal is to make it low impact. And just for reminders, we already approved the
Right,
program.
right,
We're just
no,
talking
I'm
about
saying,
where
we're
we're
just
getting the
trying to
money
clarify,
from. Yeah.
Right.
Goal is to not have it be a big burden, but there will be some staff time, just making sure it is there and working. But I guess then, just to make sure, I guess I'll move that we add $1,000 and a line item to the city council department for a tree canopy now.
Let's put in parks.
Okay, sure.
Because if it's gonna be staff driven,
Okay.
managed, it's better there.
Okay, I'm fine. Then I retract that motion, Chelsea, or I never made it.
Do you wanna start over?
Yeah.
Do.
You're so right.
We're on a good roll there.
Thanks. Okay, then I'll move that we add, a $2,000 line item to the parks budget for a tree canopy project, with the understanding that we're still gonna look for external funding, so we hopefully won't need to use all that, but I wanna make sure we have it there to go.
I'll second
Motion
that.
on the floor, and we have a second. Any discussion? Looks like Mike.
Kevin's saying we give trees out to the citizens.
No, I said if it goes into
If it goes into the park,
if we put that funding into the parks, it becomes park, actually just park. To differentiate between what we're gonna give out to the public, or is it just going in as trees?
we would probably,
Anything add a program line?
yeah, come up with a program line for it. Okay, I just want to put it up on our side.
Cause we also have street trees.
I know you do,
in
you're right,
streets.
in streets, right.
Chelsea?
Who seconded?
I did.
Councilor Nielsen? And then, was this an amendment in it by any?
It's more, of
Direction,
here's some directions that we have to follow.
Very good, okay.
It's more for us to know, okay, we got $3,000, where would we put it? Or whatever, it was 2,000.
That's the amendment.
I mean,
What,
to
Van?
follow up on that, Kevin was saying is, well, they have trees, but those are park trees. So where would they get trees for this?
It's a new line item.
Yeah, it's
We'll
gonna be
call
a
it
new line
tree
item.
canopy.
Well, the 2,000, isn't that what the cost of the project is?
Well, it's the amount that there is available, and then hopefully we won't spend all that, but yeah.
Cause I mean, he would need to buy trees for
Right.
this.
Yes, correct. And that would be from this line item, not from park tree.
An outside source that might give us money to get specific power.
Okay, that's good
He
to know.
gave us $1,000 for trees last year, and they gave me at our Arbor Day celebration.
Okay,
And they gave every teacher that came $100 gift certificate. So I can get you one to contact.
Yeah, that'd be great.
They're really excited about giving out money for trees.
I am really excited about accepting. So. Okay.
Well, I guess the other thing would be, I'm sure they take donations, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, again, the goal with this, the goal with this is that we would find donations, but just if everything fails and we don't, I wanna make sure we don't scrap the whole project.
So sorry, I was engaged in this conversation while you were making the motion. Is the motion to put it in parks?
Can I read the motion that I have? And
Please,
see if
yes.
it's accurate? Okay, move to add $2,000 in the new line item to parks budget for tree canopy.
Motion has been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. This is unanimous. Floor remains open for any other discussions and deliberations.
I have a question for, Mike and for the city manager. Our total proposed 24-25 budget is 40,150,000. Funded, reserve amount is 42% of that, would be 16,900,000. Our total projected unappropriated ending fund balance is 4,116,000. Thank you for nodding. My question to both of you is, how are you going to manage that potential shortfall of 12,750,000?
Over time. We're not gonna be able to hit it this year. A lot of these funds, the biggest fund that we have is the LBE fund. That's the big boy. That particular one is driven by projects. And so that number really skews the projects. So if you took 20 million out, you're down to half of what we got. Then you've got some debt. So basically, I'm starting to pull things out and going, it's the only thing that we need to really worry about is the general fund, which is $4 million. And Kevin's got his budgets. He'll have different type percentages. What we need to do, Ruth, is look at this particular policy that I had in Newport, see if we can apply it here. I don't think we can at the moment. I need to look at it in detail. I've got numbers. Chris 42%. I like that, but in the general fund, that's a big chunk. We're at 17%, which is okay. We're doable. But to get to looking at that particular number that's too skewed because of the LBE fund.
But isn't that number driven by the number of months before the property tax revenue is received?
Exactly, and that's what you're talking. That's in the general fund. That's the only one that we have property taxes in, with the exception of the URA. So, like I said, yeah, $4 million there, and we're at 17%. We have, if we can get another 25%, that would be good.
So put 1.6 million in ending fund balance reserve. And that's not just that first 5 months or 6 months until we get the revenue coming in from the property taxes.
Right.
That's also when it hits the fan and we've got a big pandemic and we've got, overtimes and other stuff going on within the general fund. There's a lot of contingencies that are built into our water fund and our sewer fund for equipment malfunctions and that. Within our general fund, there's a contingency, but really what you want to lean on is having that reserve so that when it hits the fan, we're not out scrambling around looking for cash. We've got cash, right? So it's having that cash and the interest that we pull off of it's not a bad thing either, right? And so at the same time, we don't want to tax our residents to the point just to build up our coffers, but that 42% number is a healthy balance that's going to provide us security should we need it, but it's not putting an undue tax burden on our residents at the same time. So we recognize it's going to take us a while to get there this year, as we've seen, and we talked about how we actually dip a little bit and we pull away from that target. I don't see that as a trend. I see that as an anomaly, and I see it a lot because of the uncertainty that we're having with all of the big projects right now and the large increase in personnel expenses we saw last year, this year, next, that will even out as property values continue to go up and our employee costs aren't jumping as high as they've done with the correction that we've made to the salaries. We'll even that out over time. So it's still the goal to get to. It's going to take us multiple years to get there.
Okay, my point is, I don't wanna have to go back to our constituents for another fee as we did before. I understand why we did it, we needed to do it, but I don't wanna have to do that again.
Nobody does. Local governments are having to. So I don't want to either, but when you start looking around at the state and how many local option levies are getting passed, they disguise them as public safety levies, or they'll disguise them as park levies, or, you know, there's any number of disguises you can put on them, but most local governments are facing financial constraints and they're finding other ways to get revenue. If they're not doing it on a levy, they're adding it to the monthly tax bill. You can go down the list. So nobody wants to raise fees more than we have to, but we also have to run a government, and our revenues are capped in a lot of ways on the revenue side with property tax caps. So, you know, I think we've got great department heads and we do run things very fiscally. We're not going out and buying the biggest, newest, shiniest of anything. I think we try to be very, very careful on our expenditures. But we live in a world where we have expenses that go up, and right now our biggest service on the general fund, it's personnel. And those personnel costs have gone up across every segment of our economy, right? And public sector isn't shielded from that. So that's what we're seeing. Yeah, I mean, there's no simple answer, so I don't want to be overly simplified, but there are things we can control, and I think we do a good job controlling those, and there's some things we can't control. And we're trying to avoid additional fees and taxes as much as anybody. Has as big of impact on us as employees as it does our business owners and our residents and everybody else that lives here. So, you know, we're very mindful of that.
Well, I think, all of us thinking about spending.
Mr. Hunsaker.
Yeah, I guess I sort of heard two different things from you, Chris and Mike. So I'm just looking for clarification. The 42% is a number that if I understood Mike, you're using that for everything, like Ruth had mentioned. Saying, well, really, it only affects the general fund, and that's half the budget. So what would it be what percentage would it be if it was just the general fund? Because unless you borrow from the land building equipment, you can't use that money anyway. I mean,
the general fund, which is still have that 42%, that 42 is a good target there.
Right now,
it's a good target for the other funds as well, but those other funds, again, they're inflated with the big projects. That was Mike's comment, is when you have those large projects and you're doing a $12 million construction project, 42% of that budget's substantially bigger than what it really is going to be once that big project's done, and we're really just talking about operating expenses. So if you look at 42% of like operating expenses and take out those capital projects, that's gonna get closer to what I'm referring to, which is some reserve that's gonna not just cover that first, you know, and the utility departments is different because we've got monthly revenue coming in. But even in those, you still want to have some reserve there, so when it gets, you know, if something does happen, we're not.
well, yeah, I understand that. What would, I guess, separating the land building equipment out from the public works and the general fund, what would be the percentage in this particular budget? It's not 17%, it's 17% because of the land building equipment. So the ones that are operating, in terms of Ruth's concern, really is what that numbers would be.
We'd have to do some math, so we can look at some ratios and we can bring that back.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Further discussions or deliberations? Floor remains open. And I don't believe I see any. So we'll move on to the next agenda item. We'll open the floor to visitor comments. Chelsea, did we have anyone sign up?
No.
So we'll close that portion, and it looks like we're at the adjournment. Before we do so, Chris, do you have any final comments about the path forward here?
Mike kind of spoke to the beginning, so we'll have Leilani in the office is going to put minutes together for this meeting. So those are ready to go, and we'll be getting another just small packet to go that'll have the link, some comments from Mike. We'll see if we can run numbers more on the ratios that we talked through, make those corrections. So expect an email by the end of the week in preparation for next week's meeting. And then next Wednesday, again, it's kind of a final time just to review everything. We don't expect any additional changes at that point, other than maybe just some clarifications then. And then you'll have an opportunity to make some motions and adopt and approve the budget at the budget committee level and recommend it forward to the city council for approval. And then they'll go through their own process on the city council to review it. There's some changes they can make. There's some state rules, and Mike will cover that with the city council on what percentage or what amount of change can be done at the city council level. So really what's coming out of the budget committee, more times than not, is what ends up getting looked at and reviewed by the city council, pending any kind of other minor changes. So all of the members of the budget committee are welcome to stay engaged. You can come to those council meetings, see the rest of the process and the final approval. But otherwise, yeah, I just want to thank everybody again for the work and time and effort. It's obvious that everybody's gone through everything and given a lot of thought, and want to end my comments just thanking my staff. You got great employees working here. The department heads have all worked really, really hard. Chief coming on new's been up to his eyeballs in everything else and doing the budget. Gary's great help for Kevin on going through all of their stuff, making sure it's right, and Chelsea did a great addition too. But I really a lot of the kudos goes to Mike for pulling all this together. I think of all of the questions there, he was the one that said that he found the most kind of tweaks and errors and mistakes and things that need to be updated. And that's just going through it day after day after day after day after day after day after day. So appreciate Mike's efforts in pulling this all together as well. So I'll end on that.
Councilor Crocker, I saw your.
Oh, yeah. I have a note that says June 12th, city council, is that when we approve the budget? And that's a Wednesday? Is that gonna be a regular city council meeting or?
Should just be the Monday in June. Is it the
10th maybe? Can you see that?
On your calendar.
We do not.
It says that they're
Yeah, let's say budget meeting on the 12th, my calendar as well.
Well,
It's not on our city calendar.
okay, that particular. Because I do a separate notice for that. And I usually do it on the regular council meeting. I put the wrong date on the date here, that will fix that. That's something that's not, it's just, you approved it, it's not something that we change it.
writing notes, but I'm not the only one that had that date yet, so, yeah. Good. I struggled Thursday.
Yeah, so pretty, like, I'll play June.
That's Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions about upcoming meetings?
We'll see you on next week.
I will be in Alaska next week, so.
Are you gonna go fishing?
I got it, we're gonna cruise ship.
Really? That's fun.
The first you could do is go on one of the boats from Most Dangerous Pet, so you just sit there and watch the crab. When you said, there'll be crab on the boat available to buy.
Are you going to,
Yeah, we're going to Juneau, Skagway, I don't remember what.
But the Ketchikan can do one of their,
Well, they're going out on the Bering Sea, they're gonna.
Maybe what I'll do, I'll adjourn.